Welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Are you trying to master the game of life without success? There are secrets and strategies to living your best life. We'll share some of them with you on today's show. Take advantage of this series to become an expert at relationships. All relationships. It's time to live the life that you deserve to live. Now, here's your host, Sandra Reish.
Welcome to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish, a show that teaches you about living your best life from a psychological point of view, a spiritual point of view, emotional point of view. We are always talking about topics that will make you have the best possible life, because I really like that. And, you know, I'm really quite fascinated with the topic today, because one of my favorite sayings in life, and I live by it, is mean what you say and say what you mean. And it's extremely important to me. And I think that as a therapist, it's one of the mistakes I see people make is we've all been sort of taught to sort of, how can I say it, talk through indirect language, and not saying when we're upset, especially women. We don't say when we're upset. We say things indirectly, and then we're very frustrated because people don't understand what we mean, and then they don't get what we want, and we don't get what we want, and it just goes round and round and round. So I didn't think on my own. I wasn't smart enough to think on my own to do a show on this, but it's very interesting to me because you people who follow me, you guys know that I believe in serendipity, and I was actually, through circumstances, met my guest today. I think through her manager, she contacted me, and she is actually very much an expert in words and communication and how important it is. So I ask you firstly to consider how the words you choose in your life impact your life. Do you think they impact you a little, or do you think they impact you a lot? And I would submit, and I'm pretty sure my guest will agree, that the words you choose have the possibility to transform your life. Before I introduce her, I want to welcome you guys to call in with any questions for her or myself at 1-866-472-5792. We'd love to hear from you. Mary Shores is the owner and founder of Midstate Collection Solutions, one of the most unique collection agencies in the country. She is recognized as a leader of innovative thought, and she's spent a lot of time in her life teaching businesses and individuals how to inspire each other, create new ways of thinking, identify their goals, and take action to create meaningful results. One of the things I'm very interested in talking to her about is she's the founder of something called Conscious Communication System, and she teaches people about this. She goes across the country. So first and most importantly, welcome to Straight Talk, Mary.
Thank you, Sandra, and thank you for such an amazing introduction.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Your background quite fascinates me. I wonder if you subscribe to, as much as I do, to the belief that mean what you say and say what you mean. Is that something that you also feel is a big thing? Because I really, really think that's a big thing.
I was reflecting on that as you said it, and I thought it's such a wonderful standard to hold yourself to, and I was actually remembering an interaction I had this week where I didn't do that. So just by hearing you say it, it made me aware of a time where maybe like my actions and my words were not in sync with each other.
Oh, you see, now I'm in the field of psychology, so I can't resist that. So I'm going to ask you a question, go off into a little tangent. When your words and your actions were inconsistent, how did you feel in your body?
Well, I think I probably felt stressed out.
Okay. So speaking, which is really your area, and I'm just adding the psychological aspect to it, communication is extremely important. So now, what I'm a little confused about your background is a collections industry to transforming lives through personal development. Walk me through this.
All right, I am happy to. And you're not the only person who's fascinated by debt collector turned personal development expert. Because
I've never met a debt collector.
And
very interesting.
I hope I'm the only one you meet.
I hope so too.
So let me tell you what happened.
Okay.
Many years ago, I think so many years ago, I can't even tell you when, I knew I had always wanted to own a business. I was the type of person that when I was a little girl, I did not play house. I played bank. So even when I was 9 years old, and like you have to picture this. So 2-car garage, little subdivision, and inside the garage is Mary's Bank, which was some yard sale tables set up, and I had all the fake money. But back in those days, we didn't have like technology that could just print off some funny looking money. I had to draw it on paper and cut it all up myself, and I passed it out to all the neighborhood kids, and I would make them all have accounts at my bank. And so they would have to go through my garage on their bicycles and tricycles. And remember those big wheels?
Oh, yeah.
So they would even come through on their big wheels through Mary's Bank, and they had accounts, and I kept all the accounts straight. So I guess I always wanted to be a businesswoman. And my parents, when I was about 12 or 13, opened a collection agency. And so when I was very young, actually I think 24, I had an opportunity to open a branch of their office. So because I'd always wanted to be in business, this was my opportunity to get started. I knew a little bit about the collection business, although at 24, of course, I thought I knew a lot more than I actually did. But the collection industry was not congruent with my own values and morals. And what I mean by that is that the collection industry in general, especially back in these days, like in the 80s and 90s, was much more punitive than it is now. It still is punitive and adversarial, but it's gotten better over time. And so I needed to create a collection agency that was congruent with my own set of morals and values. And I eventually began on this mission that I wanted people to feel good about paying their debt, because having a debt is a psychological burden. And what I mean by a psychological burden is that it becomes a barrier between the person in debt and their dream. So if you have a dream, whatever it is, if it's marrying the person of your dreams, or getting your dream job, or applying for your house that you're going to need a mortgage for, then that psychological barrier is going to cause you to feel unworthy.
Right.
And, go ahead.
No, I said right.
Okay. So the second part of this is that it's not just a psychological burden on the debtor, it's also a psychological burden on the creditor. So if anyone has ever owed you money and not paid you, then you know that feeling of in your stomach when you see that person and you feel awkward. You don't know what to, you don't know what to say to them. You don't know what they're thinking. It even gets to the point where you're questioning, like, why are they buying this item when they owe me money? Like,
yeah, definitely.
At the store. So over time, I was able to ask myself the question, how can I make the next person who calls happier at the end of the call than they were at the beginning of the call? And that was really the very beginning. That was probably around 2005. That was the very beginning of this system. Because as you know, that when you ask yourself a question, your brain is designed to give you an answer.
Okay.
And so without even thinking about it, I just started speaking in ways that were going to make this person happy. And then I started writing scripts. And from the scripts, I started writing rules and steps. And that began what became the system, which was basically the entire system of conscious communications. Wow. And it does get a little confusing, because from there, the book I wrote that was based on this system is a personal development book.
What's the name of the book?
The name of the book is Conscious Communications, and the subtitle is a mouthful, but I love it. It is your step-by-step guide to harnessing the power of your words to change your mind, your choices, and your life.
Okay, so we're going to take a break in about a minute, but just a couple of things to think about here. So, and just to clarify, are you still in the collections industry?
Absolutely, 19 years and going.
Okay, so you use your conscious communication system within the collections industry, but you also coach people on how to communicate in a more effective way, I assume.
Well, my book and all of my personal development work is I would not say that it's necessarily communication focused unless we want to call that inner communication. So we're really talking about things like self-talk, affirmations, gratitude, goals. It's how we use words. Remember that in the old books like Think and Grow Rich, they would call it auto-suggestion.
Yeah.
So, along those lines.
Yeah, no, I love that because that's very much along the lines. We've done a few shows on that, on neuroplasticity, what your brain is hearing as you're saying things. And I think that's, a little bit what you talk about is what is the brain hearing as you put the question out. And that's, the brain does what it hears you telling it to do, right?
That's right.
Okay. So, maybe before the break, collectively, we can ask our listeners to think about, A, do they mean what they say and say what they mean? And B, what is the story that they're saying to their brain? And when we come back, we'll have Mary talk about the brain and neuroscience and how it's affected her career. I can't wait to hear that. We'll be right back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
I am back with Mary Shores, fascinating lady. Really, I think the story she told about going from collections to, developing a system like conscious communications really brings home the fact that, whatever industry you're in, what we're talking about today is just so relevant. So whatever you do in life, it's important. And we're talking about like one thing that was important for Mary is, it sounded to me, this is what I understood, is sort of the story that your brain hears. So I wondered, because she talks on her blog and in her book about brain and neuroscience. So Mary, how did you get into brain and neuroscience?
Well, I've always had a fascination with the sciences for as long as I can remember. And I had this belief that a lot of spirituality and science were talking about the same things, and that maybe we just didn't have a common language to explain it. And I really think that the farther we're going into neurology and into neurobiology, that we're seeing more and more about how our everyday interactions are affecting the chemicals that flood our brains. So for example, if we have a stressful situation happen, that goes back through the way that our brains are built to protect us and put us into a fight or flight. Say, for example, if we had to wrestle a tiger or a bear or run away, versus in today's world, things are triggering this, like an uncomfortable conversation that you might have had with your boss or with your spouse. So it's triggering these fight or flight chemicals, but we really don't have a lot of mechanism to get rid of them and set our baseline, back to normal. So we have to learn how to use the parasympathetic nervous system to even out our chemicals. What the goal is we really want to create more dopamine and serotonin and stop creating as much cortisol and adrenaline.
Oh, it's so relevant to the work I do. My work is in anxiety and definitely about the sympathetic nervous system firing and what happens as a result. So I'm just curious, is that your interest in this, first of all, Mary, you're very interesting because you have you had the fascination with neuroscience. You're not a psychologist. You had a fascination with business since you were a young girl. You are a person who is interested in a lot of things. It's a wonderful quality.
Oh, thank you. I just wrote a blog the other day, and it was talking about, so how do we take this talk about neurology and apply it to our lives? And I listened to Moran Cerf talk about, he's a neurologist. He's actually a hacker turned neurologist. And it was fascinating because what they've been able to do is measure what our brains are doing. And they found three fascinating things. The first was that just by being in the room with someone that you want to be like, or someone like that you admire. So it's that idea that, birds of a feather flock together, or if someone has made a goal that you want in your life, go be around that person. But now what they've seen is that your brain actually synchronizes to their brain. So how cool is that? You can learn just by being in the same room with people who are smarter than you. And the second was that if you can't be in the same room with that person, then, watch their content, watch their YouTube videos, watch the documentaries. Those things are also wiring your brain in that direction. And lastly, it's that the narrative that you tell yourself about yourself will become your identity over time. So that's where we get into that idea of how our stories are creating our lives.
Wow, I really am enjoying this conversation with you. I'm not just saying it. It's because I'm really big on the story you tell yourself, but you added a new component for me that, and I always say that one of the secrets of my life was to hang around with the smartest kid in the class. So what you're saying, and I mean that not only literally, figuratively too, is that I want to always be around people who are doing better than me, or I can learn from, never the other way around, like the knitting circle of how awful life is. So what you're saying is that actually being with people who are in a very positive space is, who are teaching something interesting, it's almost like the mirror neurons. Like I get something out of it too, and I get the learning, and that's really cool.
I think that's exactly what I'm talking about.
I love that. I really love that. I think it bears being repeated that birds of a feather flock together. Let's take it to the next level, that the company you keep is going to actually affect the story you tell yourself in the brain, and therefore even your success or happiness.
That's right. And I'm not suggesting that people ignore the things that are in their life or suppress things in any way. What I am talking about is let's get in the habit of talking about our dreams, our goals, and our past successes as much as our future successes, because the act of even the act of remembering a past win will actually connect you neurologically to that win, and it will instantly create dopamine in the brain. And what I find fascinating about that, because I was just writing about it the other day, is it explains why when people tell, when the guys tell that fishing story, the fishing story gets more outrageous every time, and when they're telling it, they get more and more excited.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. So it's just, again, this idea that if I'm like Mary, I guess you sound a little bit like a psychologist, I must say, but I guess if you're saying, even if I'm having a bad day and I remind myself, if it was my fishing story and I remind myself in a very positive way, I tell the story, that is already going to flood my brain with dopamine and change and serotonin and change my mood. It's literally going to change my mood.
Almost instantly. I just wrote a process that I'm going to call Breakthrough Your Breakpoint. And what it is it's a 5-step process of what to do when you have hit rock bottom, overwhelmed stress. And
oh my God.
I had written
give us a hint about it?
I had actually written all these steps out for my own personal crisis that I experienced last year. But then I went back and did the research. And what I found in the research was absolutely fascinating.
Okay, tell us. First of all, can you share what was your crisis?
Well, it was a lot of things that hit me out all at once. Okay, so it wasn't just one thing, but it was a lot of things. So I'll just give you some of the major things. One was I had an unexpected bill that was actually larger than, about equivalent of 1 year's salary. So that was one thing. Can you just imagine? The next thing was that I broke up in a relationship. So I broke off the relationship, and then thirdly, I'd had a long-term employee that was resigning, and I was just devastated. So those were three of the
big things.
They were all major things, and they were all happening at once. Okay. And so I was actually in the middle of writing. My book, and ironically, the book was about. The chapter I was writing was about negative self-talk and getting yourself through dark times. So how awesome that the universe was providing me all these dark times to write about. So what I did was I first wrote out a list of every problem that I had. And when I wrote the list, it ended up having 20 things on the list. And then the second thing I did was I looked at that list and I said to myself, Mary, every single person with this amount of problems would be just as depressed and stressed out as you are. And so I was able to create some self-compassion because I realized that it was reasonable the way I was feeling. Okay. So that was very important. And then the next step I took was I divided the list into what I called fact from fiction. So what I noticed was that there were 10 things on the list that were actual physical events. And then there were 10 things that were fears and worries that were associated with those events. So like, for example, I was worried that I was going to lose my business. And that was an exaggerated fear that was associated with this unexpected bill.
Right, makes sense.
Right. And so I was worried. I was worried that I was never going to have another relationship again. And I was worried that more employees were going to abandon me. So I had a lot of fear of abandonment triggers. Right. And so, so I want to stop there. And I want to explain that the first thing I did, writing the list of the problems, I researched this. And what I found is that our brain rewards us with dopamine just by naming our problems on paper. So that act of writing a list on paper actually made me feel better. And it's true that it did. Like I instantly felt better. Yes. And there is research. There's a study done. I can't remember off the top of my head who did it, but there was a research study done where if you name your problems, you get you get some happy hits of happy hormone hits.
Okay.
And here's the next step, which is so important, is that step of looking at the list and having compassion with myself. So what I learned about this is that compassion is linked to the love chemicals. So when I had compassion for myself, and when I was able to say anyone would feel stressed out like this, that compassion creates the same chemicals as the love hormones. So now we've got vasopressin and we've got oxytocin.
Makes sense.
Yes, and that was very, very cool. And then the next step, it just made me feel better. I don't know the science behind it, but cutting that list in half made me realize that, I only really had half the problems that I thought I had. So that was pretty cool. And then the next step was to take each one of them, and my mind had already started developing the solutions around these problems just by writing them down on paper. So I was able to write a one-page action plan for each of the issues, and even though it took me longer than a month to solve all of these things, it only took me a week or 2 weeks to get out of the funk that I was in.
That's pretty amazing. I mean, you took a difficult situation, and we don't know each other, Mary. This is our first time talking, but we have a lot in common, because another one of my big sayings that I say, my listeners know it, is take your lemons and turn them into lemonade. You really did, because you not only applied it and helped yourself, but you came up with a strategy that you can help other people with. I think that's absolutely amazing. And I'm impressed with that. We have to take a break, but when we come back, I want to talk about probabilities. I know you talk and write about probabilities, and I'm very curious what you have to say about probabilities. So hold on one second, Mary. We'll be right back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats, and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
A fresh look at today's health. Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
Well, I'm really enjoying my conversation with Mary Shores today, and we'll definitely get her details so people can find out about her. It's too bad. I'm just finding out where she lives. I wish she lived closer. I told her she's my kind of girl. She is my kind of girl. She is no victim. She takes her lemons and turns them into lemonade, and she's a go-getter. So, I have some information on her, and then I just don't know what it means. So I'm so curious about this. And, I've heard that you talk a lot about probabilities. I have a feeling I know where you're going to go, but I would like to know how you define probabilities and how does it impact our listeners?
So I define probabilities as all of the potential outcomes in your life. So at every moment we are making little micro choices that I like to say that it's the moment to moment choices that are building your life, almost like if you're building a set of Legos. And I don't think that we really realize that little choices affect us just as much as big choices do. And it's those choices over time that are leading us through, the door on the left or the door on the right. But when you look at something 10 years later or 20 years later, that 2 millimeter decision that you made today, 20 years from now is going to lead to an entire different life. So as an example, when I was younger, much younger, 20 plus years ago, I took a job as a telemarketer. And I can honestly tell you that when I took that job, it was because I didn't feel very qualified for much else. And I think I was 20 years old. And I excelled at being a telemarketer. I mean, I was the best telemarketer that ever lived. And anyway, the point is that if I had not taken that telemarketer job, I would never have created the system that I created, and I would never have written this book. Now, maybe I would have gone on to do other equally great things in my life, but they would be different. It would be a different probability. If I hadn't taken that job, I wouldn't have maybe met the same man that I married and later divorced. I would have met someone else. But it's just those little choices that we don't realize over time that build up. And sometimes in terms of spirituality and things that I've tried to learn, I can understand science really, really well. But when people start talking about certain, I'll say like law of attraction terminology, I go blank. So here was one of mine. When people would say the power of now, I was like, I don't get it. I don't know. I don't understand. Or this one, you just have to allow. And I'm like, allow what? What the heck are you talking about? But then all of a sudden it clicked. And what I understood was that the power of now is so relevant, because the power of now to me is that all we really have is this moment where we are choosing every single second what we are going to do next. Am I going to go to the grocery store or the gas station? So like, for example, a few weeks ago, just on a whim, it wasn't planned, my friend Peter said, hey, let's meet for coffee. So I was going for coffee anyway. It was a no-brainer decision, but he and we had such a brainstorming session that we both walked out of there with 10 new business ideas that we could apply immediately. So all of those things that I brainstormed that day, I would not have brainstormed in the same way had I not been getting that, synergy going with my friend Peter. And he felt the same way. So that's an example of how a little decision, can impact you. But sometimes we have big decisions.
So it's almost like there's no coincidences. And, a couple of things come up in my mind. Like, I don't know if you ever saw that movie, Sliding Glass Doors, I think it was called, with Gwyneth Paltrow.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah,
I actually recently saw it for the first time when I was on a plane. It's such a great movie.
Yeah, it's relevant. And, it's so funny because I don't think I've shared this with the listeners over the years, but I, came from a very overprotected family. So I wanted to see how people live like outside of that overprotected world. So I became a bartender as a part-time job, which ended up being my job for 22 years of my life. Just very randomly, it happened that way. And I mean, my entire career as a therapist, as all the things I do are thanks to those years as a bartender. So it's exactly your point. It is based on, very random decision to, take a part-time job as a bartender. It was never the plan, but I never would be in this field if it wasn't for that.
So that's exactly what I mean by probabilities. And, free will is sort of on my bucket list of things that I want to tackle with my mind. And I'm understanding more and more that the reason we have free will is because it doesn't feel like we do. It feels like everything is happening to us when we maybe don't make that connection that, like this, you learned a skill as a bartender that is serving you today, just like I learned a skill as a telemarketer that is serving me today. And I think it's very cool that I can make that connection. But the important thing, what's that saying you said? You mean what you say, and what is it?
Mean what you say and say what you mean. So
if you live by that, which you say you do, then that means you're going to make different decisions and choices that someone who doesn't live by that, which is going to lead you down a different life, one certain life path. But if you didn't have that as your credo, you might be making 2 millimeter decisions that are slightly different. But over 10 years, you have a completely different life.
Oh, that's so true. So, it's really bringing home the point for people listening, for myself, and for the people who follow you, Mary, is that every belief that you have and everything you do is constantly impacting the quality of your life and creating the rest of your life. And, it's funny because a lot of people think that's very spiritual, but it's actually also very scientific. We are co-creators of our life. I'm a cognitive behavioral therapist. It's an empirically tested therapy. Cognitive behavioral therapy comes from co-creation. Co-creation came up way before things like the power of now.
That's right. And our language and the way that we describe it, I see this as a feedback loop. You brought up belief systems. And one of the things that I'm really fascinated with is how this feedback loop works of how we are co-creating our reality. Because I think that it goes with our thoughts, feelings, words, actions equals our results. Mm-hmm. So we need to that was another term that I used to get confused about when people would say you have to get in alignment. I'd be like, great, how do I do that? Like, what does that mean?
It's another cliche, yeah.
But now I totally get it. It means that my thoughts, my words, my beliefs, my feelings, and my actions all need to be pointed in the direction of what I want. And I have to detach myself from all of the things that are not going to get me what I want. Neil Gaiman gave a wonderful, I forget the kind of commencement speech a few years ago where he talked about you always should be walking towards your mountain. And your mountain is whatever is your goal in life. And if you're stepping towards your mountain each and every day, you will eventually reach it. But, we get those side tracks, like where we're doing the things that are out of alignment. And my thing became, though, I don't know how to control my thoughts. It feels like they just sort of happen simultaneously, and I don't really understand the mechanism of where these thoughts come from. But what I can control is my words, my choices, and my actions.
It's amazing, and I guess one of the things you must do now is help inspire people, because what you're saying is very inspirational and very motivating. Is that part of the work you do with people?
Absolutely. That is that is my biggest passion in life.
It's so helping people to realize, like, even these key moments and the story they tell their brain, and how these aligning your words, thoughts, and actions to produce the life you want, basically.
Right. And I think that the easiest entry point to start to get control over these choices and your free will is with the words that you say. So that's why sometimes I say, if Tony Robbins and Louise Hay had a love child, I would be that love child.
I love it. What is one thing that people can do today to start aligning their words, thoughts, and actions to produce the life they want? What can they do?
One of the easiest things that I did was I started writing out a page of affirmations every day. I mean, it sounds like the silliest thing ever, but I talked to a friend of mine who is a hypnotherapist, and she said actually that what I was doing was working to rewire my brain over time. And she said that the human brain needs 2,500 suggestions for something to stick. So I was writing out a page of affirmations every day, and the majority of them were exactly the same day or exactly the same as the day before. Because as you know, or I assume you know, that, if we have 60,000 thoughts a day, 95% of them are exactly the same as the day before. But when I plant a seed of these affirmations in the morning, then it really did affect my mood, I think, probably by creating dopamine. But over a period of a year of doing that, it's amazing how many of those things came true. Another thing I did, I was on a radio show, actually it was International Women's Day a couple years ago, and I challenged all the women to write a list of 100 things that they liked about themselves.
Oh, and boy.
It sounds like it would be easy, but after you get through all the fluff, it's actually kind of difficult because but here's the point of the story. When I got to my number 99 and my number 100, I really had to make my brain sweat because this list took me a month to write. And I wrote number 99, that I am radiant, and my number 100 was I am a powerful creator. Mm-hmm. And so the very same day that I wrote I am radiant, over the next 2 weeks, I can't even tell you how many people came up to me and said, "You look so radiant today." Oh, and I thought that was really weird. Like,
it's amazing.
That's like when Einstein says spooky action at a distance, because no one before had ever given me that compliment. No one was walking around before I had written it down saying you are radiant. So it kind of goes back to that, we're creating our reality, like our thoughts that we're putting out there, they're just like magic. And the synchronicities begin to happen, and we get supported in all kinds of ways. And one of the most powerful things I did was to start a gratitude group. So I started a gratitude club, and it's just 3 other girlfriends, and each morning we text each other 3 gratitudes. And the research is that when you begin your day with gratitude, and to me it wasn't about spirituality, but it's wiring your brain to look for things to be grateful for.
Okay, hold that thought, Mary. We got to take a short break, and we're going to come back and talk about doing gratitude, and also if people do the opposites, what will happen to their brains, so that people be careful about that. We'll be right back with Straight Talk with Sandra Reish.
Your life, your health, your network. You're listening to Voice America Health and Wellness.
Change your life forever with the latest cutting-edge products for home study treatment for anxiety, featuring the clinical director of the Montreal Center for Anxiety and Depression and host of Straight Talk, Sandra Reish. Sandra is joined by top therapist Georgia Dow in this revolutionary anxiety videos therapy series. Thousands of people have benefited from this scientifically proven treatment approach. Isn't it time you chose yourself? Visit anxiety-videos.com right now. That's anxiety-videos.com and change your life forever.
Spa Munari is a full-service wellness day spa located at the heart of West Island, Quebec. Submerge yourself in beauty with one of our many treatments, specially catered to your needs. We offer facials, manicures, pedicures, hair removal, massages, body treatments, and so much more. Enjoy our ultimate relaxation experience with our spa packages. We offer a men's menu as well. Call us today to book your next appointment at 514-695-5040 or visit us on the web at spamunari.com. That's 514-695-5040 or spamunari.com.
Join the therapist who is affectionately known as the Couple Whisperer, Sandra Reish, on her famous couple retreats and change your life forever. Sandra offers couple retreats in beautiful locations several times a year that can radically change your love life. Couples describe her retreats as life-changing. Regain that loving feeling, bring your intimacy to a new level, and rediscover excitement and joy. Find out more at helpforanxietydepression.com or call 514-796-4357. We all want love and safety. Now you can have it. Call 514-796-4357 or helpforanxietydepression.com.
Your life, your health, your network. This is Voice America Health and Wellness.
You are listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. To connect with the program today, please call 1-866-472-5792. Again, that's 1-866-472-5792. You may also send an email to info@helpforanxietydepression.com. Now, back to Straight Talk. Here's Sandra Reish.
We are back, and gosh, the time goes too fast when you have a fascinating guest, and I sure do today. I'm loving talking with Mary Shores. Right before the break, Mary, we were talking about almost like this idea, like when you made your list and you put number 99 or was your radiant, and then people start telling you you're radiant, almost like, again, very much like in the field I'm in, that our thoughts create our feelings, and our feelings tell the story. It's like very, very important, the story you tell yourself and the language in your head. And before I move on to your very generous gift that you have for our listeners, and they're going to be excited about this, is I think if you could give us a brief the Mary viewpoint on when people do the opposite and they say, I'm not radiant, I'm ugly, I'm fat, I don't look as good as her, I'm getting old. What do you think happens in the brain there?
Well, from the way that I understand it is that it affects more than just the brain. It's a feedback loop between the nervous system, the brain, and actually all of our muscles and our structures. So what I think happens is that it actually controls the muscle movement and our facial expressions. And I think that that's why you can really tell when you can look at someone and tell if they've had a stressful life. And so over time, if we continue to tell these stories to ourselves, then we're going to create hormones that are going to perpetually keep us in a bad mood and keep us down. And we're going to actually actively look for all the things that are wrong in our environment. So very much the opposite of looking for things that are right in our environment. And
to prove ourselves right.
Yes, and we're going to affect our looks. I mean, it's going to make you ugly. Sorry to say it, but it's true.
And no, I talk about it in my workshops, like the face of a martyr, someone who's always self-sacrificing, and they all have the same face. It's like their lips are curled up and they look bitter. And that's why I always recommend people don't martyr their lives. I think that what you're saying is exactly right. And I think that we have to be very careful, because it's very easy to fall into victim or martyr. And that's what my area and my book is about. And those things can really affect the way you look. And we all want to look good. So want to be careful, again, about the story we tell ourselves. There's many ways. You talked about gratitude. This is extremely important part of this from a psychological point of view. But before I rattle on about that, you were very kind and you've decided to offer a gift to our listeners. Can you tell us about this generous gift that you're giving the Straight Talk listeners?
Yes, I am so proud of this book. I am obsessed with writing personal development coaching programs. And so I don't work one-on-one with anyone, but what I love to do is just create workbooks and to create processes that people could follow. So this is the equivalent of if you went to, say, Omega Institute and you took a 1-week women's retreat, or you just took a retreat for self-discovery. So the book is called Dream with a Deadline, and I believe we supplied you a link, but people can also find it on my website, maryshores.com. And you get it as a download. It's beautiful, for one thing. The illustrations in it are just absolutely beautiful. And it's a 5-day challenge. So we're going to take you through 5 days of personal development growth. And we start off pretty easy with doing a life wheel and writing out what areas of our life we want to change. We have reflection questions at the end of each day that you can journal about. And we start with day 1 is find your focus, which I find a lot of times when I'm doing speaking or I'm teaching workshops, if I ask someone, hey, what do you want? They don't know what they want. It's amazing to me when people don't know it. So what we do is we start off with a list of things that we don't want. So my list was, I don't want stress at home with my kids. I don't want to be overwhelmed at work. I don't want unhealthy relationships. And I don't want tax issues, because that was my big bill that I owed. So then, quite frankly, you just, in the do want column, you just write the opposite. It's really simple. And
okay, well, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say that's where it starts. And then day 2, we do an exercise of unraveling your beliefs. We go on to day 3, which is your ripple effect, which is a difficult but such an important exercise to understand the impact that your life has on other lives and the impact that other people have had on you. So I love that one. And then we just wrap it up by making what I call a magic action plan, which is, there's lots of studies that show that people who write out goals and a plan to make them happen are something like 80% more likely for the goals to become reality.
Isn't that fabulous? I have to tell you, I'm listening to you, and I'm definitely going to download my free gift. So for our listeners, you go on straighttalksandrareach.com/radio gifts, and you can get this amazing and generous gift, Dream with a Deadline. What a great title. Now, I told you on the break this was not enough time, by no means, but before we start to wrap it up, sadly, I want to make sure that people listening to you who want to get more of Mary Shores, which I'm sure they will. How do they find you? What are you up to? The name of the previous book. I think you're working on a book. Tell us everything.
So I'm super easy to find. You can find me on any social media. And so that means Mary Shores on Pinterest, on Twitter, on Facebook, my website, maryshores.com. So you can connect with me in any of those places. There is an exclusive Facebook group. So if you download the book, you can actually join the exclusive Facebook group where I personally do give some coaching tips on people who are working on the workbook. And the thing that I'm most excited about, Sandra, is on Friday, I found out by accident that my book, Conscious Communications, is already on sale on Amazon for pre-sale. So if anybody resonated with this material today and you want to know more, you can jump on Amazon right now and order that book. It won't be delivered.
The book is called Conscious Communications.
Conscious Communications.
Okay. You were saying something?
Nope, I am all done.
Well, to tell you the time flew, so we're going to, after the show, we'll talk about scheduling you to come back, because I could chat with you for quite a few more hours. You are fabulous. So I want to thank you so much for coming on Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. Thank you so very much. You are a very fascinating woman.
Thank you, Sandra. It's such my pleasure.
And we will continue this talk. We're going to schedule another show to continue to inspire people, because that's what the show is all about. So I'd like to thank Mary Shores very much, and I'd like to thank her also for her very generous gift, which, by the way, I'm definitely going to be doing, and possibly even joining her on her Facebook group. I'd also like to thank all these amazing listeners from all over the world who listen to Straight Talk with Sandra Reich every week. We appreciate it, and I'd like to invite you all to come back next week. If you're interested in any of our retreats, we've got a couple retreat, a women's retreat coming up real soon. Check out helpforanxietydepression.com, and don't forget to check out your free gifts or hear previous shows on www.straighttalksandrareach.com, and just add the / radio gifts to receive some amazing free gifts from today and from other previous shows. Feel free to go to the Straight Talk page as well. You can leave a question for me or for Mary or any of my guests, and don't forget to like us while you're there. If you are a professional and you're looking for a keynote speaker on training on anxiety, depression, emotional regulation, or living a purposeful life, remember that I'm your source for evidence-based practice and education. You can hear this and any prior show as a podcast on my website, straighttalksandrareach.com, on the podcast app of your iPhone, or on iTunes under Straight Talk with Sandra Reich. Feel free to drop me a line, a comment, or a question, or a suggestion for a show at info@helpforanxietydepression.com. I am at the point where I remind you all, my name is Sandra Reish, and I do promise I'll help you learn to live your best life again next Thursday, same time, same channel. In the meanwhile, this is Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. Keep your eyes on the stars.
Thank you for listening to Straight Talk with Sandra Reish. We hope you've enjoyed today's show, and we'll tune in again next Thursday at 3 p.m. Pacific Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Time on the Voice America Health and Wellness Channel. Now, go live your best life.